Drop it like it's Clorox. Welcome to the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur and Kasparian power panel of two. So amazing news today. Donald Trump, you hate to say it because it never happens, but he really might have jumped the shark this time.
Oh, come on.
No.
I mean, of course, he jumped the shark a long time ago. We'll talk about it once the story is, fully explained. No, he gets away with everything. We'll forget about this by tomorrow because tomorrow or tonight he's going to say something else that's insane. And then everyone will forget about it. Like, I'm so sick of this. I can't even begin to tell you how incredibly bored I am with this news cycle. It is the same recycled BS every single day. Different players maybe, different statements maybe, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Debate it. Yeah, we're going to debate it. I think shark, meat, jump. Okay, that's the Lysol story. We're getting to that in a minute. Dr. Birx's reaction, if you haven't seen it, you're nuts. You got to stay right here. And then, fun game today. What is the dumbest thing that Donald Trump has said? Man, that is heavy competition. That's a little bit later. Now, look, guys, I want to check in on, and I have a special announcement that I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to check in on the thermometer because it's related to that. Remember, overall for the year, we're trying to get to 2 million. So we need 200,000 per month. So right now we should be at 400,000. Now there's a lot of caveats here. Joe from LA, Joe Sandberg, his money has not been put into this version of the thermometer, and we carried over the money from March. Blah, blah, blah. But anyway, where are we? 361 is your answer. TYT.com/go. It would be amazing, wonderful, and necessary to hit 400 before the end of the month. So please, let's try to make that happen. TYT.com/go. Now, here's the fun announcement. It started as an idea to do an audience funding drive show on May 5th on Cinco de Mayo, mainly to celebrate you guys because we want to read the names of folks who donated, not just the big donors, but donors for $3, $5, etc., and tell your stories. But then it developed into something even bigger. On May 5th, I will announce the 5-year plan for the progressive takeover of the country. Yes, I'm back, baby. I'm back. We're taking over the country. 5-year plan coming up on May 5th. And then on top of that, a super secret announcement. Whoa. That's right after the show on May 5th. It's a special Cinco de Mayo. Make your margarita now, drink it, and then make another one on May 5th. And then we'll have that when we do the special. So tell your friends, neighbors, and Randy Gonzalez, TYT.com/go. Speaking of which, go, Anna.
All right, let's get to the stories. Cenk, every day I feel more and more like the new Dave Kohler of the company. Like every time I hear you talk, I'm just I'm constantly face palming. But anyway, let's just move on. All right. So, Donald Trump is a public health and safety risk. Let's watch.
We hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light. And I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting.
If the right folks who could.
Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number in the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful.
So Donald Trump suggesting that UV light and injecting disinfectant into the human body could be a treatment for COVID-19. That is not true. That is incredibly unsafe. It's a terrible thing to even suggest as the president. So why did he say that? Where did it come from? Well, according to Mediaite, Trump was riffing off of some still developing research presented by Bill Bryan, an official from the Science and Technology branch of the Department of Homeland Security, who had just detailed the half-life of the coronavirus under various heat, humidity, and light conditions. Bryan noted that the virus seemed to decay quicker under the ultraviolet light from the sun. And when it came to his statement about disinfectants, he was referring to, the virus on surfaces, not in the human body. But we have a moron running the country. I mean, running the country, I think, is a strong way of putting it, destroying the country. And now places like Maryland are reporting that they have to issue a public statement because so many of their constituents have been contacting local officials to ask about whether they can use disinfectants to treat coronavirus.
Okay, so this is the difference between us and the mainstream media. Today, the New York Times had a story about how some experts say that this could be dangerous. No.
Oh, my God.
No.
Oh, my God.
It's not some experts.
Oh, my God.
It's all experts.
Oh, my God.
It's all experts. If you drink Clorox or Lysol, you will die. Don't do that. Don't, under any circumstance, do that. Do not inject it. Do not drink it. Do not consume it. And the fact that mainstream media for a long time, finally, I think this has kind of broken the camel's back a little bit. We'll get to that in a second. But even, including this morning, like, I don't want to offend Republicans. I mean, I'll make it a 50-50 issue because I want political correctness rather than medical correctness and factual correctness. No, it's not some experts. It's all experts. And secondly, guys, we had the courage to say that Donald Trump is stupid. Now you say, well, Cenk, everybody says that now. They didn't say it on day one. They didn't even say it 3 years in. Most of mainstream media still doesn't say it. They're still having a nonsense debate about, well, I mean, what's the strategy behind this? Is this actually a strategy to do distractions? And you know what, Andy, the way that he's playing to his base? No, moron of epic proportions. He believes you can nuke a hurricane. He believes that the noise from wind causes cancer. We can go on and on. So when he heard the doctor say, and it's not just doctor, we'll get to that in a second, but hey, you know what? Disinfectant works on surfaces. He's like, oh, cool. Maybe we could use it inside the body. Hey, schmuck, ask it in private. Ask it in private to the doctor. Don't go out in front of all the cameras. Maybe if we put it into the lungs, it does a job on the lungs. Yes, that's true. It does do a job on the lungs. It'll kill you because it'll destroy your lungs and then you will die. So the UV light, pay attention, schmuck. What the doctors are talking about is you put UV light in a room. It kills the virus in the air. In fact, UV light is a disinfectant, but is dangerous to human beings. It can cause skin cancer and other ailments. What they're talking about is something called far UVC, okay? And that actually can kill the virus, but not harm humans. The part where they explain that you could use it because it doesn't harm humans is the relevant part. So you don't then zap human beings with it or get it or very big light, powerful light into the body. The only person who speaks like that out loud in front of national cameras is a person so stupid they don't even realize they're stupid.
I don't know. Maybe he knows something that we don't know. Maybe he knows something that scientists and doctors don't know. Maybe he should inject himself with bleach and we should see how that works out. I mean, he has no problem, putting the lives of others at risk constantly by promoting unproven treatments for this virus. It starts off with hydroxychloroquine, which, by the way, we'll talk about it later in the show today. The FDA has finally issued a warning so people don't use it to treat coronavirus. And now he's moved on to this nonsense about using disinfectants, right? Now, of course, later he backpedaled when he realized, oh, maybe there's too much backlash and this could hurt me politically. But before he did that, there were reporters who wanted some clarity on what he was saying. So here's Jonathan Karl, reporter in the press pool, asking about what Trump had just said. He wants some clarification like everyone else. Let's hear what Trump had to say.
You mentioned the idea of cleaners with bleach and isopropyl alcohol. You mentioned There's no scenario that could be injected into a person, is there? I mean,
No, I'm here to talk about the findings that we had in the study. We don't do that within that lab, our lab. So
Are we simplifying too much?
We're talking about almost a cleaning and sterilization of an area.
Right.
Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, but it certainly has a big effect if it's on a stationary object.
All right. So the first person you heard from there is Bill Bryan, the researcher I was telling you about earlier, who had talked about disinfectants on surfaces. And so he had to be diplomatic. He had to avoid saying what we can clearly and honestly say, which is Donald Trump's a moron, and you shouldn't listen to him when he talks about injecting disinfectant in your body. But what's hilarious about it is Trump felt the need to interject because I think in that moment he realized how stupid his statement was. I was talking about this, maybe the surfaces. Yeah, we all know that disinfectant works on surfaces, you idiot. Like what? Like this is our lives. This is what our lives have turned into. The president should be smarter than the smartest American, right? Like I'm not particularly intelligent. You're not particularly intelligent. We're average human beings, right? I'm saying that the president should be more intelligent than like the top physicist in the country. The president is a moron, and it's devastating because people are literally dying as a result. Literally dying right now at this very moment. It's insane.
Guys, look, sometimes you have a wild idea in your head and you wonder about it, right? What do? Maybe you look it up online, you call a friend, you ask. And if your friend is a doctor, for example, and it's a medical question, maybe you ask him. Do you go out and tell everybody, I got this great new idea. We take Windex and we squeeze it right up our noses and, and that'll cure everything. Do you say it in front of millions and millions of people and risk being embarrassed? Do you think like, well, disinfectant working on the surface, I don't seem like that'd work on the human body, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll ask someone, I'll whisper it in a corner or I'll ask, no. He doesn't know. He just doesn't know how stupid he is. So he's like, it works on surfaces. So we're going to look into it. And we're going to see what happens. And look, guys, here's another thing the mainstream media won't say and will say. That's why you should watch us, because we're not afraid to tell you things that are true. If you're a Donald Trump supporter and you thought, hey, he nailed it. That was a good idea, man. Maybe we do the Clorox or the Lysol right into the lungs, right? Okay. You're just as dumb as he is. And maybe even dumber because you look up to him. Now, the rest of the media will never tell you that because, I need ratings and the Trump viewers are watching and I can't offend anyone and I need access. We don't need access and we don't need any MAGA guys watching. If you think Donald Trump is a great leader, after seeing this, you're one of the dumbest people I know. So you are dumb. Just live with it.
Okay, so here's one other thing that's pretty incredible. About a month ago, The Onion, which does satire, published this headline. Let's take a quick look. Man just buying one of every cleaning product in case Trump announces it's coronavirus cure.
It happened.
This was a month before Trump's statement about using disinfectants, like injecting disinfectants into the human body in order to cure coronavirus. How insane is that? I mean, honestly, the writers over at The Onion have the most difficult job in the country because no matter how outlandish their headlines are, Trump always manages to outdo it.
Yeah. So
what they write is tame compared to what Trump says and does.
Yeah, we're going to get to his BS excuse in a second. But guys, the other folks that are apparently believe in this stuff is the quacks in the right wing. So some preachers, of course, total snake oil salesmen, literally like Clorox oil salesmen, are saying, you dropped like 6 parts of their miracle bleach into their water. It said they wrote a letter to Trump. They're bragging about it now. He listened to us. These are right-wing scam artists who use religion and right-wing politics to rob people blind. Why? Because they think, well, if you're going to sell a product that doesn't work, you should target the dumbest people in the country. And those are right-wing religious fanatics who will believe anything. And you know who one of those people is? Donald Trump. He's not just the founder of the club. He's also a customer. Okay? He actually believes all these conspiracy theories. So if he did get a letter from these quacks, I don't know if he read it, but if he read it, he probably was like, oh, yeah, that's really interesting. Oh, yeah. In fact, how do I know? Because he said it on national TV. So
let me give you more details on that.
That's who the right wing is. That's who the right wing is. There's a whole heap of folks, millions and millions of people who will believe anything. That's why Alex Jones, Donald Trump, all the pastors, Jim Baker, all of them sell you fake miracle cures because they know you're a bunch of schmucks.
So he met with Mark Grennan this week, and this is some terrible person who has been pushing Trump to use a product that he's selling, okay? And the product is essentially a disinfectant. He's saying that it's a miracle solution that can be used to cure illnesses, including cancer, malaria, HIV, AIDS, as well as autism. Okay, so the product is chlorine dioxide, which is lethal if you ingest it in any way, if you obviously inject it in your body in any way. And he knows that. This person who's trying to like sell this product and make money off of it knows. He knows. He met with Trump this week, according to what The Guardian's reporting. So did he have an influence on Trump's stupid statement? Probably. Yeah. Because, and by the way, how do people like that get meetings with Trump? That's what I want to know. Donald Trump is willing to meet with any insane person who's trying to sell any insane product.
Yeah. So, look, I think there's a moment where Trump jumped a shark. And I know that moment you think happens 1,000 times, and we've been through this so many times. But there are a couple of moments that resonated with me, and then later we showed you in the polling that it did hurt him, like when he withdrew from northern Iraq and abandoned the Kurds. That hurt him a lot, at least with the military. It dropped like 30 points because of that. Now, it doesn't mean that he doesn't recover some of that later, but it was a body blow. This is an uppercut. I mean, people are going to be embarrassed to vote for him. I mean, he's a dummy. He's a worldwide dummy, and everybody knows it. And now, like, if your neighbor is going to vote for Trump, like, you get embarrassed. You're like, oh, my God, I didn't know you were that stupid. And that's true.
We've already been there. No, we've already been there. It doesn't matter. They don't. They're not embarrassed. They don't care.
Anna, this is on an epic scale. No. So it's hard for them to understand a lot of other things. And a lot of the other stupid things he said, like taking out the coal and cleaning it. And that's what clean coal is. People, they don't know what clean coal is. And that it didn't get a lot of press coverage. This is getting massive press coverage. And everyone knows that you'd have to be mentally, not everybody apparently, but enough Americans know that you'd have to be mentally deranged to drink Clorox or to think that you should inject it into your lungs.
You don't know Americans. You just don't. We're fighting two different pandemics, okay? One is a virus. The other one is stupidity. And the stupidity is overwhelming because, look, and it's not everyone in the country, obviously, but it's a big enough portion of the country that has a voice and will support Donald Trump regardless of anything he does. And they'll find excuses. For instance, Breitbart, that ridiculous publication, they fact-checked what Trump said. And here's what their fact check is. Fact check, no, Trump didn't propose injecting people with disinfectant. No, it's amazing. And so what is Trump saying now that there's backlash? And this is why I don't think you're right, Cenk, because Trump has this ability to claim that he either didn't say that or that he was joking, or in this case, that he was just being sarcastic. Take a look.
Your comments about injections of disinfectant, they're quite provocative.
I was asking a question sarcastically to reporters like you, just to see what would happen. Now, disinfectant for doing this, maybe on the hands, would work. And I was asking the question of the gentleman who was there yesterday, Bill, but I was asking a very sarcastic question to the reporters in the room about disinfectant on the inside. But it does kill it, and it would kill it on the hands, and that would make things much better. That was done in the form of a sarcastic question to the reporters.
But you were asking your medical experts to look into it. Were you being sarcastic with them?
To look into whether or not sun and disinfectant on the hands, but whether or not sun can help us. And that's what I brought out, and I thought it was clear.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. That's it. No. His supporters, the people who voted for him, they're fine with that. They're fine with that. Cenk, his support among Republican voters is in the mid-90s. No, that hasn't changed, regardless of what he does.
I'm telling you, this is too over the top. So here's part of the reason that I say that. Now, mainstream media, they think they're tough on Trump, but they still dance. They dance and dance around the issue. Today, they weren't dancing anymore. Anderson Cooper said, flat out, lie. He did not. He was not sarcastic. He did not direct it to a reporter. He clearly was asking his doctors. They never say that on CNN. They say, oh, I can't believe it. They bury their hands. They do all this stuff. But they never say the president is lying. That's an obvious lie. Jake Tapper comes out. Obvious lie. It was not sarcastic. The president is lying. Now, not just CNN. You go over to Fox News. Neil Cavuto, or Fox Overall. And Neil Cavuto says, clearly lying. The president was not being sarcastic. He clearly was directing it to the doctors. And he said, by the way, the other things he suggested, like hydroxychloroquine, they tried it. They tried it in the VA. It killed people. He's like, this is extremely dangerous. Do not listen to the president. So I know that Neil Cavuto has criticized him from time to time on air on Fox, but this is a different level. People don't they just don't know so many of the other things that he says that are absurd. But everybody knows you don't guzzle Clorox. You warn your kids about it. Even your kids are smart enough to know that. And so...
I mean, look, there was a phase in this country where everyone was making fun of teenagers who were eating Tide Pods. And then we ended up electing one of them.
Yeah. Yep. But it's worse because the teenagers were like, oh, my God, let's see if I can survive this. Trump thinks it might be delicious and might cure coronavirus. He is the dumbest of us. And if you want him to be your leader, it's the most pathetic thing I have ever heard.
When we come back from the break, everyone's talking about Dr. Deborah Birx's reaction to Trump's statements, but I think that we need a cold, hard glass of truth regarding how she has sanitized some of his statements in the past. We'll be right back.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur and Kasparian with you guys. Lots of comments here, as you might suspect. James says, in the members section, tyt.com/join to become a member, or hit the join button down below if you're watching on YouTube. James says, Trump, the only thing more deadly than a coronavirus and injecting disinfectant. Yes, Trump is the virus. E. Manimal writes in, Cenk's optimism is an overwhelming objective observation of Trump supporters who have a denialist mindset. Remember, Trump is a cult leader. They will drink that Kool-Aid. Or in this case, guys, they'll drink that Clorox. By the way, don't do it, and I don't want Trump to do it. And, quick correction, he did not meet with the quack saying that you should drink the disinfectants. That guy sent him a letter, and we don't know if he read it. Aaron Graham says, on YouTube Super Chat, thanks for using that. G.W. Bush is somewhere jumping up and down with joy. Until 2016, he had the title for the dumbest president in our history. Not anymore, not even close. Okay, well, Artemis, you're about to get what you want. I need a video of Cenk just disputing the very stable genius things Trump's big brain has come up with. I watched the video you made last night. I want more. Well, it's coming. It's 2 stories away. And I'm going to say this only, and that after that, guys, there was like 12 of these comments. So James Williams Jr. on YouTube Super Chat says, Anna is 1,000% right. This is nothing new for Trump. I'm honestly baffled that Cenk still thinks Trump's stupidity will have any negative impact.
Same. I'm baffled. So, like, I don't get it.
I hear you. And America so far is on your side, Anna. Almost all the comments are like, Anna's queen. She's totally right. This will not move anything.
And by the way, I hope I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong, and I would love to lose that $400 bet to you, but I'm not.
Okay, first of all, that money's gone. Let's just be honest. Okay, but there was one tweet today that said, tick, 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 tick. Last one is Sharon Del Santos, also on YouTube Super Chat. She said, as a laboratory worker, I was so offended that poor scientist who had done a great job explaining what he was talking about, and Trump ruined it. It's true. Now, nobody's talking about what the scientist actually said, which is that, hey, look, the far UVC light actually has a lot of promise to kill the virus in the air before it gets into our system. And obviously, you should clean the surfaces, et cetera, and there's some progress there. And that has been lost. And the potential health benefits and potential hope of that, no one's talking about, because everybody's obsessed with how Trump might get people killed, rightfully so. All right, Anna, let's keep it going.
All right. When Donald Trump went on his unhinged rant suggesting that injecting disinfectants could potentially serve as a treatment for coronavirus, Dr. Deborah Birx, who actually happens to be a health expert, seemed to be distressed listening to his statement. Let's take a look.
So supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number in the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
There's nothing better than that reaction. So first of all, America is Dr. Birx today. We're all going, right? And it was just a raw moment of humanity, right? Because she has to walk this tightrope of telling people things that are true that could protect their lives and not offending the man-child who's in charge, who's like a Wreck-It Ralph, just destroying the place. And as Anna's about to show you, she doesn't often walk that line as well as she should. And so, but in that moment when she thinks no one's looking, she is legitimately horrified. Like, what is he saying? Like, you can see her like tensing up, like, is he saying to put the light inside the body? And then when she realized, no, he actually is saying that, and he moves on to the bleach, she's like, oh. And then she's just like frozen there, like, oh my God, where did my life go wrong that I'm stuck in this position? And that's how the whole country feels.
Yeah, and let me just preface this by saying that she is in a difficult place, a difficult position, because anything that could be perceived as a slight on Donald Trump will get you fired. You will be removed, and then you'll be replaced with Dr. Keith Abloh from Fox News. And that would be a disaster, not only for her career, but for the rest of the country. Like, we need experts. We need people who actually know what they're talking about. But I think the person who's actually done a really good job with that is Anthony Fauci, because he doesn't go out of his way to sanitize Donald Trump's statements or his behavior or image. He just corrects him when he's spreading all sorts of misinformation. Now, I want to give you examples of Dr. Deborah Birx sanitizing Donald Trump's statements or behavior. One example is from a month ago. This was in March.
You describe the job President Trump is doing behind the scenes and in front of the cameras during these daily briefings that we're seeing. What's been your perspective, Dr. Birx?
He's been so attentive to the scientific literature and the details and the data. And I think his ability to analyze and integrate data that comes out of his long history in business has really been a real benefit during these discussions about medical issues.
No one with a functioning brain believes that Donald Trump is interested in scientific literature. No one. He has never read literature ever. So like the idea of him reading scientific literature is ridiculous, and he is not attentive to it. He's not attentive to what the experts have to say. You know, sometimes they'll have some sway and influence over him. So for instance, there was a report indicating that Dr. Deborah Birx spoke to him the night before Trump decided to throw Brian Kemp under a bus for opening up some of the businesses in the state of Georgia. She's the one who persuaded him, like, hey, you gotta talk to the governor and tell him this is a really bad idea. And Trump respects her because he thinks that she's elegant, right? So like, it's important to have someone like her on the inside because she'll have some influence, positive influence on him. But at the same time, don't sanitize his behavior because he's not tapped into the science. He doesn't actually care about the science. And if you're lucky, maybe time to time, he'll listen to you. And I want to give you some more examples of things that she's done and said in the past that just aren't true. And I think Aaron Rupar over at Vox did a really good job compiling this list. On February 26th, for instance, Donald Trump claimed, coronavirus cases could be down to close to zero. His claim was hard to swallow then. And barely a month later, the United States had more than 85,000 cases. Okay, so that happened February 26th. Then, during a March 13th news conference, Dr. Deborah Birx described the president's lagging coronavirus response in nearly heroic terms, then lent her credibility to promote a coronavirus testing website that turned out to not really exist. Birx tried to explain away the U.S. government's ill-fated decision to try to develop its own coronavirus test by falsely suggesting that a test developed by the World Health Organization has major accuracy problems. It doesn't. Okay? She bragged about the U.S. passing South Korea in total number of coronavirus tests conducted, ignoring that South Korea has a much smaller population and had much more testing capacity during the critical weeks when the virus was first spreading. So she stays away from ever critiquing the president's response. She'll never criticize him. And I get why she has to toe that line, very similar to what Fauci finds himself doing. But Fauci doesn't sanitize Trump. Fauci just corrects him when he needs to be corrected.
Well, but Deborah Birx is probably thinking if Fauci's fired, which is maybe a matter of time, I'm the last man standing. And between an insane person with no brakes in the car running the country. And so, look, I think the Deborah Birx question is a very, very difficult one. I've criticized her in the past, and I said the same things you're saying now. And I'm reading way too much. I acknowledge that into her look that night. But I had the sense as I was looking at her that she was thinking, what have I done? Why did I ever back Trump on anything? Backing Trump on anything he said is absolutely ruined my career. I now backed a guy who's an obvious buffoon, and the whole country and the whole world knows it. And I had a great career. She did before this, and apparently she did heroic work on HIV. And now, to at least half the country, she's part of what's become a laughingstock of the administration known for ignorance rather than for science and medical advancement. And so, look, there's some things she said there in that article that you quoted that tracked all the things she said that's totally unacceptable. So when she said the World Health Organization test doesn't work, it does work. And it's super dangerous to say that. We should have been using their tests from day one. The fact that we didn't cost us tremendous amount of lives. Trump doesn't know a goddamn thing. And at the end of February, as you quoted there, he said there'd be 0 cases. And Aaron Rupar was writing that article at the end of March where we had 85,000 cases. If you don't know, right now, we have over 900,000 cases. We lead the world. We've had over 51,000 people die. More than a quarter of the deaths worldwide are American deaths. And, I mean, any other president who said there'd be 0 deaths and there's over 50,000 deaths, we'd already be removing him from office. So we got used to this monster, but we shouldn't. But I do have sympathy for people like Dr. Birx that are trying to get the train back into a position where it doesn't crash tragically. But it is super hard to do when your conductor is a baboon.
When we come back from the break, we'll try to figure out which moment of Trump's was the dumbest.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Jake Ugranik is very with you guys to read some comments. Anna's Margarita Salt writes in, she just swallowed her own vomit, a lot of it, repeated burps, referring to Dr. Burps. Dr. Burps, sorry. Gabby Marino writes in, inside Dr. Burke's head. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Nice job, Gabby. Richard Hyman on YouTube Super Chat said, I thought I was dreaming when I read that Trump said that. It was 4 a.m. UK time. Slept a few more hours, and my God, it was real. Sisters in New York City, I'm scared so much for her, but you guys give me hope for a brighter future. Keep winning the war of stupid versus smart. Thank you. We appreciate it. There's so many others, and you guys were great. We got to go. May 5th, huge show. We're doing a 3-hour extravaganza where I'm going to lay out the 5-year plan for the progressives to take over the country. Yes, I am. And a secret surprise you guys are going to love. So make sure you check that out on May 5th, right after the main show. And tyt.com/go. Keep us strong and fighting for you guys. Anna, what's next?
All right. So Donald Trump will likely go down in history as this country's most moronic president. So what exactly is the dumbest moment he's ever had? Well, there are many to choose from. So first, I want to remind you all of the bright idea he had regarding nuking hurricanes. He had been quoted as saying the following, Axios had reported this, I got it. Why don't we nuke them? They start forming off the coast of Africa. As they're moving across the Atlantic, we drop a bomb inside the eye of the hurricane and it disrupts it. Why can't we do that? The source added, paraphrasing the president's remarks. But if you thought that was a dumb moment, which it most certainly was, we have other examples for you, including what you're about to watch.
Army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
So that was him claiming that the Revolutionary Army took over the airports back in the 1700s. But we have more. Let's go to the next one.
We've ended the war on beautiful, clean coal, and it's just been announced that a second brand new coal mine where they're going to take out clean coal, meaning they're taking out coal, they're going to clean it, is opening.
Look, these are impossible to decide. In fact, we got a poll coming up at tyt.com/dumb where we're going to ask you which one of these is the dumbest. So keep all these in mind. Take out the coal and you clean it, and that's what clean coal is. Taking over the airport in 76. You think it can't get worse? Hold.
New F-35s, fighter jets, They're stealth. You can't see them. I said, how good are these? They say, well, sir, the problem is you can't see them when you fight them. I said, that sounds like it's a big advantage. I said, how does it do it in fights? And how do they do in fights with the F-35? I said, we do very well. You can't see it. You can't see it. They said, well, sir, you can't see it. I said, yeah, but in a fight, a fight like I watch on the movies, a fight, they're fighting. How good is it? They say, well, it wins every time because the enemy cannot see it. Even if it's right next to it, it can't see it.
One of the guys in the back nearly burst out laughing. It's a stealth fighter because radar can't pick it up. You can see it. It is not an invisible plane.
No. If you're next to it, you literally cannot see it. You just can't. It's an invisible fighter jet.
Okay. First of all, what's interesting is there's actually an F-35 in front of me right now. You just can't see it. And I didn't know that Donald Trump was Wonder Woman with invisible planes. Does he also have the cute little bracelets?
This is actually, look, some people, I don't know, maybe you're having fun. I'm not having fun. This, to me, is like the most depressing story I've ever had to cover. But we have more. Let's take a look.
Island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water.
And look,
look, that was not going to win, okay? But the fact that he realized that Puerto Rico is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water, that's never not funny.
From the standpoint of water.
That was a later quote when he said, water is wet, from the standpoint of water. This guy's an idiot. And 40% of the country thinks, genius, nailed it. That's the guy I want to lead me. Wow.
And we have more.
If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, congratulations. Your house just went down 75% in value. And they say the noise causes cancer. You told me that one, okay? The thing makes it so...
So he thinks that windmills cause cancer.
No, to be more specific, Anna, the noise from the windmill causes cancer. Everybody knows that. By the way, the real reason he's pissed at windmills is because there's some windmills next to a golf course he owns, which he thinks lower the value of it. But he's now convinced himself that the noise from the windmills cause cancer. That's one of my favorites. I'm on pins and needles here as to what I'm going to vote for, what you guys are going to vote for. TYT.com/Tom. But we're not done.
The disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
And so obviously that's the famous putting disinfectant inside your body, and it does a number on your lungs. Yeah, that's true. It would do a number on your lungs. You would die. That's what he just said yesterday, of course, and what everybody's talking about. So it's new, and it is spectacularly over the top. So it's probably the favorite going in. But, I wouldn't sell the invisible jets or the wind causing cancer short. And there's so many things that aren't, and all those things, I don't want to bias you. I mean, the Air Force we had under Thomas Jefferson and George Washington was amazing. You know what? Every jet they had was invisible. They weren't like that at all. You couldn't see them. The British didn't see them coming. They had the invisible jets. So, this child is our president. Okay. And we didn't even nuking the hurricanes. Okay. We didn't look, there were things that he said that are in this ballpark too that we didn't include it. So how many things can you put in a poll? So go vote right now, tyt.com/dumb, because the whole country wants to know what was the dumbest thing he's ever said. And this is one of the biggest contests I've ever seen. All right, let's keep going.
Wow. All right. Well, let's move on to what the FDA finally did, something it should have done. Brett, that that is probably my favorite thing you've ever done. Like, that is an incredible video. If you guys are listening to the podcast version of this, just check out the video. It's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on Facebook. It's going to be everywhere. Brett put together a really funny video. Anyway, moving on, let's talk about the FDA. The FDA has finally issued a warning on chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine, citing serious poisoning and deaths as the reason it should be avoided. Now, this is the drug that Donald Trump had been promoting during his pressers, even though there was very little scientific data indicating that it could be a treatment for coronavirus. And now that we know through various studies that have happened recently, the drug is actually incredibly dangerous if people plan on using it as a coronavirus treatment. So CNBC reported that the agency, meaning the FDA, said that it became aware of reports of serious heart rhythm problems in patients with the virus who were treated with the malaria drug, often in combination with the Z-Pak. So that's the drug that's usually used for the seasonal flu. It also warned physicians against prescribing the drugs to treat the coronavirus outside of a hospital. So just to give you a little excerpt from the statement released by the FDA, they write that hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine can cause abnormal heart rhythms such as QT interval prolongation and a dangerously rapid heart rate. So we already knew. I mean, we had already shown you some studies indicating that there were pretty significant side effects to this drug that impact the heart. And based on the studies that have been done recently, so many people died while receiving treatment with hydroxychloroquine that studies had to be halted. One example was a study that was being done in Brazil. Sweden decided to stop using the drug as a treatment for coronavirus. And these are things that we should all be aware of because, unfortunately, the person leading this country is spreading all sorts of misinformation about it, and people could die. And so you need to be fully aware of what the risks are.
So Trump had said that it was a game changer, that it might have been one of the greatest inventions in medical history. The study out today in the American Medical Association, peer-reviewed, as Anna explained to you. One other thing that Trump said, before I tell you the key quote from the study, he said, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? Why don't you just try it? What do you have to lose, right? And the study said that the primary outcome was death. So apparently we have our answer. What you have to lose is your life. Nearly 24 patients died during the study. So that's chloroquine. And
it's amazing because Trump had been promoting this drug during every single coronavirus press conference he was having. And then all of a sudden he stopped talking about it and he was called out for it. Get a load of how he denies the change of behavior.
Stopped promoting hydroxychloroquine as a cure.
I haven't at all. What do you say? We'll see what happens. We've had a lot of very good results, and we had some results that perhaps aren't so good. I don't know. I just read about one, but I also read many times good. So I haven't at all. And it's a great for malaria, for lupus, for other things, and we'll see what it is.
And so let's just take a quick look at the fact check, because Trump's lying, and it's very clear.
Also claimed that he has not stopped hyping up hydroxychloroquine. By the numbers, we know that's untrue. My colleague Marshall Cohen posted a chart showing that, for example, between March 19th and March 25th, he mentioned it 15 times. Between April 16th and 22nd, just once. So that has fallen off.
Yeah.
So I'm glad, Cenk, that he's not talking about it anymore. But he needs to issue a self-correction because he had been propping up this drug as a treatment for coronavirus every single day. And so he needs to let his supporters know that this is not something that's going to help them and could actually kill them if they use it as a treatment for coronavirus.
The idea that Donald Trump would ever admit he was wrong on anything is, of course, comical. It would never do it, which, by the way, shows you how incredibly weak he is. Insecure little baby. Because a confident person can admit when they're wrong. If you ever watch the show, I admit it all the time. Okay, and we joke around about what an ego I have. obviously joking. I don't know where people would get that idea, but kidding aside, I tell you when I'm right. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's also to tell you, hey, look, we know what we're talking about. We've studied these things, so trust us when we say something's going to turn out one way. But if it turns out I'm wrong, I come out here and say it immediately because I don't want you guys to have the wrong impression. And we care about being right. We care about facts. Trump would never do that. In fact, that's why some people think he did the insane thing last night of saying that perhaps you should inject disinfectant and put it in your body and your lungs, and maybe ultraviolet light or very serious light could be injected into your body to cure you, because he's weirdly, desperately looking for a cure. And I'll tell you why. Because he wants to be the hero of the story. He's a little child, and he wants to save the day. It wasn't the doctors. It wasn't the scientists. It was actually Donald Trump who found the cure. And so that's why at first he thought it was this hydroxychloroquine. If it turns out it was right, he was going to come out and say, I told you it was me. I knew it before the doctors. In fact, he said at one point in the beginning, he said, you know, the doctors say I know this stuff better than anybody else does. Maybe I should have got into that line of work instead of what I did. I mean, what a buffoon. So he moved from something that killed people to something that kills people way more effectively, which is injecting disinfectant into your body.
Right. And look, I think part of it is that he wants to be the hero. But the other issue is that the health experts who surround him are people who have worked for the government under both Democrat and Republican presidents for decades. Okay. And he doesn't trust people like that. He thinks that they're part of the deep state. And so he is a conspiracy theorist who thinks that people are purposely destroying his presidency so he doesn't get reelected, which is why he thinks that he needs to question everything they do and promote things that they have not had actual scientific data backing. And it's scary because, again, what depresses me the most about all of this is that people die under his watch because of his incompetence, because of his ego, and because of the fact that he refuses to trust the very people he should trust. And this is what we're dealing with. And his base, the people who support him, are immovable. They will not listen to the facts. They go ahead and listen to what he has to say, and they make excuses for his incompetence all the time. In the postgame today, we are going to discuss some more evidence. There's a big bombshell development in the Tara Reade allegations against Joe Biden. We'll give you the details on that and more. Become a member. Go to tyt.com/join. Have a great night.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of the Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.